When everything you've built starts to fade away, what still makes sense to hold on to? There comes a time when faces change, places empty out, and the sounds of life give way to silence. But it's in that moment, and only that moment, that what truly matters is revealed. This video isn't just a reflection, it's an invitation. An invitation to rediscover what really matters when everything else is gone. If you're going through that phase where the days are quieter, but the memories more intense, this video is for you. For those who carry wrinkles, yes, but also wisdom. For those who've lost much, but still want to live with purpose. Today, let's walk together through 8 profound truths that remain, even when the body no longer responds like it used to, even when the house feels emptier, even when loneliness knocks at the door. And by the end of this video, you might realize that what truly matters never really left you. Awareness of finitude. There comes a moment in life when we stop running. Not because we've lost the desire, but because we've finally begun to see. When we're young, we live as if time were an endless road. We rush, we get distracted, we procrastinate. We think time belongs to us. But the day comes when we realize we're not standing above the hourglass. We're inside. It's in that instant that the awareness of finitude takes hold like a silent, undeniable truth. And though it may seem harsh, this awareness is not our enemy. On the contrary, it can be our liberation. The ancient Stoics used to say, "Memento mori," remember you must die. Not as a threat, but as a reminder that the present is all we have. Seneca, the Roman philosopher, wrote that life is long enough if we know how to use it well. The problem isn't that life passes too quickly, it's that we take too long to wake up that, and maybe, if you're here listening to me, it's because you've already begun to wake up. You've already realized that life, with all its noise, one day falls silent. That the hands that tremble today once held children, work, dreams. And even with less strength, they still carry worth. That the eyes, though clouded by time, can still see beauty in the small things. And most of all, that the heart still beats, not as fast as before, but with more meaning than ever. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, said that life has meaning even in suffering, even in death. He wrote, "Life never ceases to have meaning, even up to your last breath." Frankl watched people die, lose everything, but he also saw people who, in the face of imminent death, found the courage to smile, comfort others, and even love. As if, in the end, life revealed what truly matters. The awareness of death is not a sentence, it's a mirror. A mirror that asks, what are you doing with what you have left? Because time can't be saved, it can only be lived. And paradoxically, the more we recognize its limits, the more intensely we live it. It's the limit of time that gives value to our moments. Maybe you're at a stage where you've already lost loved ones. Maybe you've looked in the mirror and missed who you used to be. And all of that is real. The pain, the grief, the absence. But it's precisely because of all this that every gesture now matters so much. The kiss for a grandchild, a shared cup of coffee, the memory of an old song. Everything can be sacred if we look through the right lens. Because the end doesn't erase beauty, it reveals it. It's because we know the flower will wilt that we look at it more closely. It's because we know night will fall that we savor the last ray of sunlight. The awareness of finitude invites us to stop living on autopilot and start living with presence. Life doesn't need to be eternal to be valuable. It just needs to be true. And if today you feel like so much is gone, know that what's essential is still there. It's in what you feel, in what you remember, in what you choose to do with the days you have left. Because as long as there's breath, there's meaning. And where there's meaning, there's life. Authentic relationships. As the years go by, much is lost. The body's vigor, the speed of thought, the obligations that once seemed so urgent, it all fades away. But something remains, or at least something should remain. Bonds, the real ones. Those that don't depend on appearances, status, or usefulness. Bonds that withstand distance, time, and even absence. Life teaches us, sometimes too late, that the quality of our connections matters more than the quantity. When we're young, we surround ourselves with people, events, tasks. We think we're being social, but often, we're just distracting ourselves from loneliness. As we age, the masks fall away. And that's when we see clearly who truly stayed. Who remained even when we were no longer useful. When we no longer threw parties. When we had nothing left to offer except our presence, our story, our gaze. Authentic. Relationships aren't measured by how often we text, but by the depth of our encounters. Sometimes, one meaningful conversation a month with someone who truly listens is worth more than 1,000 shallow interactions every day. Because what nourishes us isn't the number of voices around us, but the sincerity of a single voice that understands. Have you noticed that when life gets hard, we don't want expensive gifts or pretty words? We want companionship, someone to hold our hand in silence, someone to listen to our memories without rushing, to care about our story even if they've heard it before. And more than that, someone with whom we can be ourselves without having to pretend to be strong all the time. There's a quiet beauty in growing old beside people who know our silences, who understand without us having to say it what we're feeling. But sometimes, those people are already gone. And in those cases, the bond remains even if invisible. Because authentic love, the kind that was nurtured with truth, stays within. U.S. In the gestures we repeat, the memories we relive, the words that still echo in our actions. And if, looking around, you feel the absence of those connections, there's still time. It's never too late to build new bonds. To send a heartfelt message, to pay a visit, to apologize or forgive. It's never too late to listen and to be heard. Because deep down, we all want the same thing, to be seen. Not for what we have or what we represent, but for who we are. Nietzsche said there's nothing more human than the desire to connect with others. Viktor Frankl spoke of this too. For him, love was the highest form of finding meaning in life. Amid suffering, it was the thought of a loved one that kept many alive. Not an ideology, a belief, or a vague hope, but love for a real person, which sustained the soul when everything else seemed to crumble. And maybe it's the same for you. Maybe there's someone still here, or already gone, who still holds you up inside. Someone you lived for, and still live for. Someone with whom you shared glances that spoke louder than words. That's what truly matters. Genuine connections are our most lasting legacy. They're not in documents or possessions. They're in the hearts we've touched. The children we raised, the friends we welcomed, the loves we nurtured with patience. And if today you feel like there's no one left to rely on, remember, even one person can be a safe harbor. And sometimes, that someone starts with ourselves. With the courage to make space, to begin again, to be vulnerable, even after everything. In the end, what remains isn't our achievements, but our bonds. And when time takes nearly everything, they're what keeps holding us up. Purpose and meaning. There's a kind of emptiness you can't see from the outside. It's not caused by a lack of things, but by a lack of direction. It's that moment when you wake up and ask, why? Why keep going when so many are already gone? Why persist when the routine is the same and the days feel repetitive? Why get out of bed when your body aches and the house is silent? That's where purpose comes in. Not as a pretty word or a distant ideal, but as a concrete necessity. Having a purpose isn't a luxury for the young or productive. It's a right, and more than that, a need for every human being, right up until the last day of life. Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of Auschwitz, wrote that a person can endure any suffering as long as they know why. He saw weak men survive where strong ones perished. And what made the difference? Meaning. Those who had someone to reunite with, a task to complete, a belief that sustained them, they endured. Because they had a reason greater than the pain. And you? What still gives you meaning? What makes your eyes shine, even if faintly? Maybe it's a grandchild who needs your stories, a neighbor who waits for your good morning, a forgotten project, an old photo album that deserves to be reorganized. Sometimes purpose lies in simple things: caring for a plant, praying for someone, sharing wisdom, teaching something only you know, or simply being present. It's easy to think that with retirement and the end of major social roles, we lose our purpose, that we're no longer needed. But that's a dangerous lie. Because purpose isn't in titles, salaries, or calendar appointments. It's in the invisible impact of our existence. Sometimes a simple gesture of yours can change someone's day. A kind word can avert tragedy. A silent listening can heal a wounded soul. And all of that is purpose. You know, there's something only the older can do. Inspire by example. Show that it's possible to endure loss without losing yourself. That it's possible to age with dignity. That it's possible to keep dreaming even with the marks of time on your face. That's a mission no youth can fulfill. Only maturity knows how to sustain it. The world needs this. It needs you. And it doesn't matter if no one says it. The truth is, even when everything seems still, there's a role only you can fill. That of being a presence, a living memory, a point of stability in a world that changes too fast. If you feel like you've already done everything you had to do, maybe it's time to do what truly matters. What wasn't imposed by anyone or expected by others. What comes from within. It could be something new, something you postponed for decades. Or it could simply be living with more lightness, more love, more gratitude. Purpose isn't a 5-year plan. It's a reason to keep going today, just today. And then, when tomorrow comes, renew that commitment. One day at a time. One small reason at a time. Because sometimes, it's in the simplest moments that we find the greatest meaning. You're still here. And that, in itself, says everything. Because as long as life continues, so does purpose. Forgiveness and letting go. There's a kind of weight you can't see, but it tires you more than any physical burden. It's the weight of what was left unresolved, of words we never said, of mistakes we never forgave, not in others, not in ourselves. And as the years pass, this weight grows. It settles in your shoulders, your back, your chest, and it keeps you from breathing freely. But the good news is that it's never too late to let go, never too late to release it. Because forgiveness isn't a gift for the other person. It's freedom for yourself. You may have carried grudges for decades. You might have felt wronged, betrayed, rejected. And those wounds, even if old, sometimes still ache in silence. But ask yourself, does holding on to this pain change what already happened? No. It only prolongs suffering that should have ended long ago. What happened to us may not have been our choice, but what we do with it is. Forgiving isn't forgetting. It isn't pretending it didn't hurt. It's acknowledging that yes, there was pain, but that pain no longer needs to rule your days. It's looking back and saying, this wounded me, but it doesn't define me. It's the courage to not let the past steal the present. And often, the hardest part isn't forgiving others. It's forgiving yourself for the mistakes you made, for the chances you missed, for the choices that today seem wrong. But you must remember, you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. We're all imperfect. And precisely because of that, life needs compassion first and foremost. For yourself, how many nights have you spent wondering, what if I had done things differently? What if I had said that? But time doesn't rewind. It only moves forward. And all that's left is what we can do now with what remains. Letting go isn't abandonment, it's care. It's saying, this happened, but I won't feed this suffering anymore. It's making space inside yourself for what's light, for what's new, for what can still bloom. Because as long as we're alive, there will always be something that can bloom. You're no longer bound by others' expectations. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to carry guilt that isn't yours. And even the guilt that is yours can be eased with the simple act of accepting your own humanity. Forgiving is like opening a window that's been locked for years. The air rushes in, the light pours in, the soul breathes again. And those who forgive don't erase their history. They rewrite the story. From victim, they become the protagonist. From someone wounded, they become someone who chooses to heal. Maybe there's someone you haven't spoken to in years. Maybe someone is already gone, and you never got the chance to make peace. Even then, it's possible. Because forgiveness doesn't require physical presence. It happens within. It's intimate. And it begins with a single decision: I won't feed this resentment anymore. And when that forgiveness comes, there's peace. Not a peace that comes from outside, but one that rises from within, quiet, serene, as if something finally clicks into place. You deserve this peace. You deserve to release what weighs you down. You deserve to carry only what's worth keeping. There's no glory in suffering too long. There's wisdom in choosing relief. The past can't be rewritten, but it can be redefined. And when that happens, the future, however short, becomes lighter. And now that you've heard all this, pause for a moment, breathe, feel. You're still here. Your heart still beats. And that's all you need for now. Don't postpone what matters anymore. Don't wait for life to shout, or it may fall silent. Do today what your heart is asking. Forgive, call, write, hug, pray, walk, feel the wind. Be. And if this video moved you, share it with someone who needs to remember that there's still time, that there's still life, that there's still meaning. Subscribe to the channel, because here you'll always find a place to reflect and to remember that living, even in the final chapters, is an art worth honoring. You still matter. You still transform. You can still love and be loved. That's the legacy that never fades.